Welcome! So, in spite of including imagery about Toon Furs, I really haven't explained what that means on the social media platform. And so I figured now would be as good of a time as any to talk about it and to talk about the history of it, some controversies that have occurred, and the future of this subculture. Before I get into what it is and the history, I did not originate this term. It has been around much longer than I have been on this earth. So, let's talk about, what even is Toon Furs, because I feel like a lot of people get confusion about what it is. So, taking this from my website, and again, this is not, I did not originate this term, I did not originate this idea, I am just assigning a description to a subculture that hasn't really been recorded before I did. So, Toon Furs is an artistic, safe for work. Sometimes it's not. I'd like to say that it's at least 16 plus. Subsection of the furry fandom, a close-knit community that shares a common interest for animation. Typically, the members of this group are into Western or American cartoons, inspired by Looney Tunes, Tom and Jerry, shorts, Animaniacs, Walt Disney Picture movies, Don Bluth Studio movies, and much, much more. Slapstick comedy and toon humor are welcomed and encouraged. I would say majority of the Toon Furs community that are active today are really inspired by Animaniacs, Looney Tunes, and the cartoons that we grew up on. This part of it I had to add because even though there was a rift at the beginning of the furry fandom, I feel like our community should be more accepting of the anime influences in style and in our love for animation. This subculture is inclusive to all forms and eras of animation, including Japanese anime, European and other international cartoons, stop motion, and computer-generated animation. This is a space for novice cartoon fans to experienced members from the animation industry to come together, share common interest, support fellow cartoonists, and meet up at various art-based and furry conventions in the continental US. Now, I would love to see international conventions, furry cons, art cons, whatever, have Toon Fur panels and exhibits. However, I only speak English. I would not be able to host a international furrycon unless the nation was English speaking. But if there is one out there and you know of it, please let me know. I would love to see any sort of videos or any sort of footage of international Toon Furs meeting up. But as far as I know, majority of it right now is in the continental US. That being said, there are some members of our culture that I have talked to who are multilingual, and they've expressed how happy they are that our little subculture does exist. Now, this is a little bit about me. Since 2023, me, aka Reggie, has been one of the active representatives for the Toon Furs online community, hosting and moderating a Discord server, which I will be posting an invite link down below. It's also found on my card. Creating original mascots for the community, which will be released soon. And planned and hosted a couple of panels at art-based conventions in Pennsylvania. And that was AnswerCon 2023 in Michigan with Water City FurryCon 24. These panels have been recorded and edited, and they can be found on my Internet Archive. Hey, check them out. Anyway, as a representative, I feel like I need to have a mission statement because I want this subculture to not just fizzle out. There's been numerous attempts to have a community for this subculture, and they've all fizzled out really, really fast. Kat's involvement in this community is based on 3 words: educate, entertain, and explore. Using her interest in animation and film history, Kat's panels focus on educating members on the historical significance cartoons have had and continue to have in the future, providing a clear thesis on popular traits and archetypes found in animation, and how inspired artists and writers can take inspiration from these sources for their own original works. She loves sharing less known cartoons with her audience, taking suggestions and encouraging others to spread their knowledge on the expanding world of animation. Lastly, and most importantly, Kat is a strong advocate for the availability and restoration of historic and international cartoons to the public, including cartoons which may be banned on the basis of education and historical significance. She has become one of the bigger representatives of the subculture, creating and moderating a community on Discord, fostering a safe space for other Toon Furs to meet, make friends, and share their artwork. I also plan on making merchandise for the Toon Furs. Proceeds and all that will go towards filming costs, editing, travel, because I do plan on doing this part-time, but I would love to commit more time to it in the future now that you know what it is. Let's talk about the history of it. When the furry fandom started in the early 80s, it was kind of divided into groups. There was the science fiction fantasy community that had been attending different cons across the US. And the furry fandom started at these room parties that were often hosted by these anime fans that would have anthropomorphic films or cartoons that would just be shown. They were not a part of the cons. They weren't official. And they were mainly anime, which was not super well known in the States at that time. So they might have been subtitled or very crudely dubbed, but this was basically like the first time that people had seen anime and had seen anthropomorphic animation that was done in a style other than the Looney Tunes theatrical shorts or Disney or anything like that. So you have that side of it where they are a little bit more risque, they're a little bit more adult, and after a while, the room parties start getting way too big, and it becomes like a safety hazard. So Mark and his friends started a conference that was happening simultaneously. A lot of people in the animation industry found Furry and really loved it. This was a group of people that they could talk about Disney and Don Bluth and Warner Brothers and do so and draw these anthropomorphic cartoon animals and not feel judged for it. And it was a great community. And these cartoonists really loved the energy and the vibe and being a part of this, but they did not like the adult side of it. And it was a really big issue because one by one, these cartoonists who were in the animation industry working for these big name studios were being found out, that they were going to conference, they were going to these different conventions, and they were being outed as furry and being blacklisted from the industry because they associated with the furry fandom. This is all theory. There are some people that are some bad apples that were in the animation industry and went on to form the anti-furs movement and other derogatory stuff relating to the anti-furs community, we do not accept them back into the Toon Furs community. And as far as I know, the bigger names are no longer a part of the furry fandom as a whole. Some of them are still alive to this day, and they are still blacklisted from the animation industry because of their actions, both within and outside of the furry fandom. But that's all alleged. I wanted to make that blatantly clear. I have not seen any specific records of this happening, and that the furry fandom was at fault. So, keep that in mind. But there are plenty of rumors, and there's this clip from the Fandom by Ash Coyote from a person who is in the animation industry and his experience with being found out as a furry.
When I was working at Disney Television in the mid-90s, the executives at Disney and at the other studios knew about furries, but they did not particularly like the furries.
Some furry artists have been turned away because the people that are interviewing them have heard about these furry conventions.
It was kind of a professional hazard to let anyone know that you were involved with the furry fandom. I had snuck away to go to conference for the weekend, and two of my coworkers had apparently shadowed the con and seen me there.
Thankfully, over the past 30 years, this has lessened to a certain degree. There's a lot of furries that work in the animation industry that you probably don't even know about. There's a lot of furries in general that you just don't know. I think a lot of studios have realized that by firing the people that were in the furry fandom way back when, they just lost a bunch of talent. And that furry wasn't all just sex parties, but that was the idea that what furry was back then. We wanted the furry fandom to basically not exist anymore because they had been so burned by it. Even though it wasn't really the furry fandom's fault, I think since the industry has become more lax about having cartoonists and other artists being in the furry fandom and also in the industry, we haven't really seen it as much, which is awesome. You know, that's great. And it's also opened up the acceptance of Toon Furs as a subculture within the furry fandom. There have been so many people that are a part of our community that are so talented, and you guys, I am so proud that we were able to pick up the pieces from a really bad situation and move past it. A lot of the iconic fursuit makers and artists that were part of those early years of furry have inspired what the Toon Furs community is today. This is a really off-the-cuff video for me. It's not scripted, but I did want to just briefly state from my recollection of being a furry historian and being a representative of the Toon Furs sub-community, what this side of the fandom is, what the history is, what the controversy is, and then just talk to you guys about it. I might go back at a later date and add more information or upload another video going more deeper into some of the artists and fursuiters and animation people that inspired the Toon Furs movement. But until then, I hope you guys have a great day. Please check out the links below. They are an awesome resource to everything that I've been gabbing about. And follow me on other social medias. Join the Discord server if you want to be involved in this sub community. And I hope you guys have a great day. Squeak!